Hi, everybody. Elida Zweidler-McKay, where we're all about helping you take your career to the next level, whether that's moving up in your current organization, building your leadership skills and confidence, or finding a new job somewhere else. So I heard this phrase recently, and it got me kind of thinking. And the phrase was, "You can't learn to run from a book." And the idea behind that phrase, of course, is that there's a lot of stuff that you can pick up the theory on, but learning something in theory is not the same as doing it. And so, if you only read about running, but you're never out there actually on the track or on the field or on the path, kind of banging it out there, you're not actually going to learn how to run. And I think that's such great advice. Like, so many people get to a point in their careers where they feel like they know what they know and they're good at what they do, and getting to the next level means they're going to have to step into the unknown and try some things they haven't tried before. And so they want to go read and study and maybe get a certification or get a degree. And that's great, but it's not the same as actually throwing your hat in the ring and stepping into some kind of work that's going to have you try whatever it is that you're wanting to learn how to do. So that just really got me thinking that, like, there's so many ways that we can get lost in learning a little bit more before we actually take action and step forward and put ourselves out there to learn by doing, which is such an important way to build our skills and build our experience. And that's why, when somebody's thinking about making a career move and moving up or moving into kind of a new area, they can really get stuck in this place of worrying about, well, I don't have the skills, but then how are you going to get the skills if you don't try? So finding ways to connect what you already know, finding ways to maybe try out some of the skills that you would need in that new role, or to test it, or to practice in some way, can be so helpful. So, for example, if you're wanting to move up to a new level of management or leadership, and let's say you're currently leading a small team, but you want to see what it's like to manage a team of teams, are there ways that you could think about delegating to your team in a way that they're working with other people and you're overseeing that, to get some practice in what it's like to lead a team of people who are managing others? Or are there projects you could take on where maybe you're doing a little bit more of that kind of leadership rather than the sort of hands-on management that you would do for people who are directly reporting to you, to build your influence skills and to build that bigger picture? Those are some examples of ways that you can create little pilot projects for yourself where you're trying something out that's going to be necessary for that next job that you want to get to, so that you can be learning as you're going and learning as you're doing. But then one of the things that you'll know about me, if you know me at all, if you've listened to these trainings, if you've worked with me, is that I tend to think in polarities. So, in my mind, nothing's ever as simple as that one side. So you can't learn to run from a book as sort of representing one side of a polarity. And I would just argue that there's another side to that, which is that there is a lot to be gained from having some theory and some structure and some frameworks around you when you're trying to learn. So an interesting example about this, my son plays ultimate and loves to run, and is really fast. But last year, during their senior year of high school, they joined the winter track team and got some actual instruction in running, and how to place your leg and how to drive through with your foot and how to raise your knees and all those things. And they were so excited to finally have some structure and some instruction on exactly how to run. And their response was like, "Oh my gosh, I've been running wrong my whole life. And if I had known this stuff, I'd be so much faster." And at one point they even said, "I'm going to start teaching little kids how to run so that they learn it right from the start." And it made me think about the kind of work that I do with my clients. There is a whole lot of ways that you can try to be a manager, try to be a leader, and follow your instincts, but your instincts may not actually get you the kind of results that you want to get, because some of the things that we know about what it takes to be an effective manager, what it takes to be an effective leader, are sort of counter-instinctual. And so if you're only working off your instincts and you're only just out there doing, but there's no structure, no framework, no strategy, no instruction, chances are you're not quite the kind of leader that you could be if you had some of the underlying ideas and underlying skills and underlying strategies around you. And so that was also interesting to me to think about, well, you can't learn to run from a book, but it sure can't hurt to have some real instruction and real frameworks to follow. And then, of course, the challenging thing about that is when it comes to leadership, there's 75 million books and they're going to give you different advice. And so part of the challenge is knowing what advice to apply when. Just like with my son, he was saying, well, if you want to run a sprint, you do it this way. But if you want to go for distance, you want to do it this other way so you preserve your energy. And having a coach really help him figure out which to do when, as he was running a race, was really important. And that's the kind of thing that a coach can do for you when it comes to your leadership as well. It's like, there are times to be very command and control and take charge and tell people what to do. And there are times where you want to really engage people and get the feel of the room and get everybody involved in something and sort of empower people, and knowing which one to apply when and what the criteria would be and what's going to help you be more successful is part of where having some frameworks and some theories and even a coach can really serve you. I had my own experience with this actually when I was learning how to drive. It's a little embarrassing. I'm not the greatest driver in the world. But I was trying to learn how to drive stick, and my mom had me in the car, playing with the clutch, playing with the gas, and like I could not figure it out. And like every time I would do it, I would either stall the car, or I had this one time on a big hill where I actually kind of peeled out because I was so afraid I was going to roll backwards. This was before they made cars, or at least before we had a car that would stop you from rolling backwards. So I just gunned it and like threw my foot off the clutch and ran up the hill. And then I was in class reading the driver's manual because that's who I am. I like to read a lot. I was reading the driver's manual, and it talks about this idea of the friction point, where you are letting go of the clutch right at the point where it starts to engage, and then you press the gas. Like as soon as I had that concept in my mind, it was instant that I knew how to drive the car. And I never had that problem of stalling or screeching out ever again, because now I had the framework and the concept in my mind of exactly what that would feel like and what I needed to do. And so again, I think that's the value of, sure, you can't learn. I couldn't have learned to drive just from reading that book. I needed the practice. I needed the physical feel of it. But having that framework and that mental image made me able to do that thing that just by feel I wasn't picking up on. Now, who knows, if I'd gone long enough, maybe I could have, but it sure made it faster for me to be able to drive that car effectively when I had the framework and I knew what was going on with it and I knew what was happening behind the scenes. And that's why one of the things I do with my clients is sort of teach them, not just coaching them on what to do in a particular situation, but providing them with the frameworks and the tools and the underlying organizational theory and group dynamics theory so that they understand what's happening below the scenes. They understand what those friction points are and when to let up on the clutch and when to push down on the gas so that they can get their team really working well together and moving forward and meeting their goals, and so that they know how to manage their, above them and manage up and get the right kind of roles and opportunities for themselves and know how to use those to move themselves ahead in their careers. So I think you can't learn to run from a book, but it sure can't hurt to have some really strong strategies and skills and frameworks and someone coaching you and leading you through them so you know what to apply when and why things work the way they work. Because once you have that, then you can really apply it in a new way. And I do that in all kinds of ways for my clients. So I have a very particular communications framework that I teach people. You may have seen some of the invitations to our Savvy training. That is a very specific analytical tool that lets you understand what's happening in a communication so you know what to do next. I also teach frameworks and tools around delegating, around setting expectations, around knowing when to, be there with someone and when to let go. So that you can really effectively hand over work to somebody and set them up for success so that they meet their goals and you meet yours. And then we also have some really clear frameworks for how to navigate political waters in an organization. So you know exactly how to get your initiatives across, how to make a reputation for yourself that's really positive and that's going to lead to those future opportunities. So all of that to say, if you're thinking about working with a career coach or someone who can help you take your career and your leadership to the next level, I would really encourage you to look for someone who not only coaches you on the moment by moment things that are happening in your career, but also can provide you with a set of frameworks and tools and training so that you've got that underlying theory to support the action, and you've got that underlying way of looking at the world that's going to help you be most effective and really be the best authentic leader that you can be. If you're interested in that, you'd like to know more about how we do that work with our clients, I would be delighted to talk with you. You can book a call with a member of our team, Anne-Marie Fayen at zmcoach.com/apply, and we'll get on the phone with you, hear about your current situation, hear about what you want to, where you want to go in your career. If we can help you get from here to there, we think we've got the frameworks and tools that are going to support you. We'll let you know that and talk to you about what that could look like. If we feel like we're not the right fit or not exactly what you would need, we'll tell you that too. Our goal is for you to walk away from that call with some really clear next steps and some sense of progress and momentum and clarity about where you want to go next. So book the call today. We'd love to talk with you. Take care.